John, move this right over here. It's
Absolutely.
probably a better location.
Yeah, perfect.
Got a constraint on it here.
Yes, absolutely.
H-A-G-G. Jen,
Yes.
is your last name E-R-T or A-R-T?
No E-T-T, no
Oh,
R.
E-T-T. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just like my neighbor's Daggett, except for I have an H Haggett.
Yeah. E-T-T. Oh, yeah.
You ever figured that one out? How many times have you heard that?
I can spell my own name and it's Ed.
I own the name and sometimes I misspell it, so.
Let's start. And we're going to call the meeting to order. This is the Brookfield Zoning Board of Adjustment, 7 p.m. First, I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to start off with a meeting and then we'll get into the hearing portion. There was a meeting held on the 5th of October. It was basically an administrative meeting. We had the meeting minutes for that. Anybody want to put a motion forth to approve the meeting minutes?
No.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passed. Okay. Any public comments relating to anything beyond the hearing tonight? Okay, move on. No unfinished business. Okay, public hearing tonight, we're gonna hear a variance for a solar installation at 244 Governor's Road as submitted by Jennifer Haggett. First thing we need to do, I wanna go and put out to all the board members to make sure there's no questions of conflict. So does any member expect to gain or lose upon the disposition of the case?
No.
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 Okay. Related to either party?
No.
Has advised or assisted either party?
No.
Has directly or indirectly given an opinion or formed an opinion?
No.
Is employed or employs any party in the case?
No.
Is prejudiced to any degree regarding the case?
No.
Or employs any of the counsel appearing in the case in any action then pending in the court?
No.
Okay, so there's no conflict. Okay, at this time I'd like to have a continuance so we can go do a site visit so all the members can see everything. And we'll meet back here about 30 minutes.
Yeah, we can do that, that's fine, sure.
Yep.
Doug, you want to just remind everybody about what the rules are, what we're doing during that
The
session?
rules of the site visit, you can ask questions, can't show any opinion, can't make any statements of decision or anything like that. So it's just ask. Yep. Dry mind?
Drive to
Just about everything.
Now you're not just straight up.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting back to order, and we can continue on. At this point, we'd ask the applicant to present their case.
Move this just a little bit for a better view. Here. I have a copy for Ed. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't get to meet you guys.
Dulcie,
Dulcie. Hi. Hi, Mike.
Chris Poole.
Hi, Chris. Nice to meet you. Hi, Amy. So as we went through a couple of things on the property with the site visit. The papers that I just handed you now are just me being transparent as far as the financial hardship part of it, so that you have some hard papers in front of you as proof of financial hardship. So the first paper is the actual loan and the payments that I've already made on it, and the upcoming payment that's going to be due August 4th, and the loan amount for the $536.41. The second paper is what my electric bill is that I'm still currently paying because I don't have the solar. So we were pretty much hoping that it was going to be just like a switch. You know, we would take our electric bill and just pay the solar, so there was not going to be a financial impact, you know, at all on us. It was just going to be paying to a different person. And then the last paper there that you have, if I remember correctly, is just another form of the 2 receipts of what I have paid to SR Solar, New Hampshire, up to this date so far. There's still another payment once the work is completed, but that's what I have paid to them so far. A $1,500 deposit for the PSNH for them to do, or Eversource, excuse me. I'm old school, I still call them PSNH. For them to do their evaluation of the telephone, the transformer and all that, his permit fees and all that was the $1,500 deposit. Then the $36,000 payment was for the equipment, what you see sitting in my driveway, amongst other stuff that's not in my driveway yet, that he's held off on, thank God, thank you, because space is limited. But he has the equipment at his business, the rest of the equipment for that $36,000. So I just wanted to be financially transparent to you, so I'm not just throwing numbers out at you that can't be verified as to what I'm paying and what I've paid so far. So on that, this is because I noticed, and I didn't know we were going to do a site visit, my wonderful artwork here, as you can see, so fancy. This is a drawing I did of my property with the Sherrill property, the McCone, which goes completely the length of my property into the south side, my neighbor Cornell, the Daggetts that are directly across the street, and Mr. Willett, who is a little off, and our property lines only touch in the corner here. Like we saw at the site visit, that's where my pool is, and I made that line because that is where I told you that water line that comes out of the corner of my house is. So there, as you can see, there is nowhere else to put the pool that is level ground or without removing a bunch of trees. On this side, which is next to the storage container where some of you folks parked, I do have a state culvert that runs underneath the road onto my property. It runs from a spring up on top of Moose Mountain that runs through the Daggett's property and pours into part of McCone's property and my property. So this land here is actually not usable. You cannot put any type of buildings on it, anything like that.
Is that wetland there? Is it wetland?
Yes, it's wetland, and I actually got the tax straightened down on it, because when I bought the house, it was being taxed as usable land, and it's not, because you can't put anything on it, because it's all wetland. And it actually runs way out into the McCombs property. It just keeps flowing. It's almost like a brook out there. And then on this side, which is the Cheryl's property on that side, I have another culvert. That one does dry up in the wintertime because it's only for road and rain runoff that comes from, what way would that be? North Governor's Road. So from across the street, my next 5 houses up, any runoff that is on the side of the road, it all comes down the road, comes to this culvert and drains onto this side of my property. But that does dry up. Still can't build there because when it's not dry, it's wet. This is where we were just showing you that the solar, we had planned on putting the solar because we had pretty much exhausted all of our other options. And I wanted to make it clear with you guys as to why. And that is because, 1, this is wetland. 2, there is nowhere over here that solar would be usable, as far as it wouldn't be viable to provide electricity. I would not receive enough sunlight if the solar was anywhere located over here. Because, as you can see, I did this marvelous little sun chart for us. So this is in the spring. The sun, I couldn't go far enough off the page, but the sun actually rises over here in the spring. It comes around, it goes around, and it actually sets behind the big pine trees on the Daggett's corner of where their property meets the road. It sets down behind there. So the solar has to be somewhere past the house in order for it to be viable to collect enough sun to provide electricity for us. And as the winter goes on, so this is spring, this is summer, in the fall, half of fall, the sun's over here. In the winter time, it literally rises above Bob and Jen McCown's back porch, and it sets right across the street over here. So my property in the winter time, even here, I have Christmas lights that I put up in the winter that are solar. They don't plug in, they're not electrical, they're solar. They will not operate because there's not enough sun, and they're just like candy cane Christmas lights. They turn on for maybe 20 minutes and then they die and shut off because they haven't gotten enough solar. So this here is the only viable location, somewhere from here to here, that the solar can go in order to receive enough sun year-round too. And as Doug, you had spoken, you have solar, so you kind of have some, background of what it involves. So with solar, it's like a bank account. So in the summertime, when you're receiving the most light hours, you're not using as much electricity as you're producing from the sun. Whatever your extra is, so if I use 1,000 kilowatts a month, but my solar collects 2,000, I have 1,000 kilowatts extra a month. That goes into a bank account. It's like a savings account for me. And that is from March through September. Those are your solar banking months. To save up for October, November, December, January, February, when there isn't a lot of sun, when the sun's over here, and we're just barely getting a little bit, a tiny bit of sun, then the electric company will go into my solar bank from the electricity that I built up during the summer and apply it towards my electric usage in the winter, because if I use 1,000 watts of electricity in the winter, my solar is most likely only going to be producing 500 kilowatts. So I will be 500 kilowatts short of solar energy to cover my bill. So then I would get, if I didn't have anything in the bank, I would then get an electric bill also, because I didn't produce enough electricity to provide for myself. So this is, again, why we decided with the solar over here, just because it's viable. That's the place that it works. And unfortunately, the other locations that we thought of, that we could do, did not work out. So this has been, just for some fact information also. So I told you at the site where my property line goes inwards, it's not a straight across property line. This is actually a higher peak than over here. This is 364 feet, and this is only 316 feet. And then this is 125 feet, and it goes in on an angle, and then it goes back up again and back up to a point. So where we were thinking of putting the solar, even if I could get that drain system taken care of and move the pool and all that, it would not meet the criteria to be off of Jen and Bob McConaughey's property line. And if I went any further back this way, then it wouldn't be in code to their property line over there. So my only option was the road, not meeting the road property line. And I was just thinking of something else I was gonna say, and right out the window.
Any questions?
Yeah, any questions for me as, oh, I did want to show you too, here, this is where I was telling you that the trees are gonna be installed. The forestry doesn't open up for ordering until December 1st, and they ship them out March 1st. So I can't order them until December. But the trees are gonna be right going in here, and of course, the trees that I had to have cut down for the solar, I'm replanting those over there.
No questions? Okay. Is there anybody here opposed to the motion? Okay. No reason for any rebuttals? Okay. The board has no questions. I guess we move on to the vote. So we have the worksheet.
Well, I'm sorry, I remembered what it was I was gonna say. Could I say it?
Sure.
Okay. I wanted you to know the reason I was getting solar. It's not a want, it's my husband and I trying to plan for our retirement. And with our projected Social Security letters that we've gotten of what we're gonna collect for Social Security checks when we decide to retire, which I think they're gonna max that out at like 69 years old. But with the amount of income that we would receive from our checks and the amount of income that we have in savings, and we plan on hopefully living until we're 80, we would like to. So based on that financial budget of living till 80 and what our expenditures and costs would be, cost of living and things like that, with cost of living increases figured out, we would be putting ourselves into a financial hardship. We would have to receive assistance somewhere. With getting the solar system now, while we're still working and we're able to pay for it and pay it off, it's only a 15-year loan, which is going to end up being paid off in 9 years because of the 30% federal income tax credit, which is going to knock $16,000 off of our loan amount. So the federal government's going to cut us a check. We're going to take that check and pay it towards the loan on principal only, which is going to knock the interest rate way down, and it's going to allow us to pay off the bill, pay off the loan in half the amount of time. So if we do that now, that is one less bill that we have to worry about paying for from our Social Security, which is then going to let us allocate that money to other things like food, medicine, gas, whatever we need it for. So I just wanted you to know, not getting solar because it's a fad. I'm not getting a solar because, yeah, I just really want that. It's a financial reason for my husband and I trying to plan for our retirement in the future and not wanting to rely on other people to help us pay our bills or help us get our medicine or help us with anything. We would like to be self-reliant.
Okay. So we go on to answer the questions on the worksheet. So the first question is, granting the variance would or would not be contrary to public interest because? I don't see any reason that it would be contrary to public interest. Does anybody else find that?
Agreed.
No, and I think specifically some of the stuff in our zoning ordinance is to prevent seeing it
Yes.
from the street. I feel like at least with what the plan is here,
The mitigation efforts.
yeah, that's
are
been
good enough?
mitigated, so
Okay.
I don't see that as an issue.
The spirit of the ordinance would be observed because they are planning screening and granting the variance would not do substantial justice because. I think it would do substantial justice because it is allowing them to live in their home within their means for perpetuity
Agreed.
without any significant impact on the public.
The public, I would
Yep.
agree with that.
Okay. For the following reasons, the values of the surrounding properties would or would not be diminished. I don't see anything that would diminish the value of the properties around them.
Agreed.
And I would agree with that, and specifically with the planting of the evergreen stuff from the road. And
Sure.
I think that's one of the main concerns if the abutters don't have an issue, but from the road in the winter, because you're living at the North Pole.
Okay, unnecessary hardship, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. Denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision on the property because. I don't think it is fair to turn around and enforce the ordinance for this application due to the hardship that would impose.
Correct.
But it's also not a reasonable solution.
Right.
I mean, there's no place else you can put it.
Right.
And they've been thoroughly exhausted.
Yeah, so that's the second part, is the proposed use is or is not a reasonable one. And we're saying it is a reasonable one.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
Criteria in paragraph A, having not been established, an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to special conditions of the property to distinguish it. I believe that an unnecessary hardship is there, that the property does not allow them to put it in conformance of the ordinances, and that does propose a hardship.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So I believe all of us agree that the 5 criteria have all,
So we need to do a formal vote on that?
I believe we do.
Yeah.
So on the first one, we're agreeing that it's not contrary to public interest. All in agreement? Aye.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
A point of order, Mr. Chairman, just for the sake of the process here. I should hear a clear motion and a second as you're doing each one, just so you're covered. I didn't hear the second one.
Okay. Do I hear a motion for the first ruling in that granting the variance would not be contrary to public interest?
Yep.
Second?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that one's passed. The spirit of the ordinance would not be observed because the spirit of the ordinance is being observed because they've mitigated the location and done everything to hide it from the public view and locate it where it's not conflicting with the butters or the public. All in favor?
Or
Or
motion.
motion,
Sorry.
or
Yes, motion.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Yes.
I'm sorry, this is the one about the visual aspect? Is that what you're talking about right now?
Well, the visual aspect is part of the whole thing.
Right, but my point is that you can put stipulations on the approval that will say she's going to plant some sort of an evergreen to help obstruct any view from the roadside. You can build that into your decision process.
So under this one, the spirit of the ordinance is being observed because the proposed plantings will screen the majority of the view from the public.
And I would say also specifically along the road, I think that was
Okay.
more of a
Okay.
concern where you're planting the evergreens there. So I think if that is part of the decision, then I would say it's, the spirit of the ordinance is being observed.
Okay. Yes, Rich?
We've done this before, and we haven't specified the height or density of the shielding evergreens.
Okay.
So, and we've had people surprise us with evergreens this tall that take 15 years to grow. So if you go with it, I would recommend you specify what you're looking for a shield, density and height. If you approve it.
Okay. So we're saying on this one, that spirit of the ordinance would be observed because the proposed trees to be planted.
So do we need to specify that height and intensity?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, I'm trying to come up, yes.
could the density simply be defined by the type of tree that it is? And I think the client actually mentioned the two types that she wanted to put in there. And I'm thinking that might be enough reference to the density. I mean, how do you can't put something in that says no hole bigger than X square inches, you know? It's really gonna be the type of tree it is and the density of the tree. So if we specify what she already intends to put in with a height, minimum height requirement for it.
So it would be the height and the number of trees or how close they are.
Specific type of tree, I would believe,
Yeah.
right? So if it's a cedar's gonna grow north of, the rate's 12 feet, right, north of 12 feet. You're gonna have another evergreen, then planting, if it's a hemlock or whatever, they're gonna be north of 12 feet, right?
Yeah.
And to the gentleman's point is, if you say any evergreen, right, he's right, you can just put it, I mean, just a normal evergreen would be 10 feet high, right, it doesn't get any higher. So I think it's to the point of what type of tree, evergreen, it's going to be cedar and hemlock, which then are grow to heights of north of 12 feet.
Yes. So I actually am on my website, that my account with the New Hampshire Forestry, and
Yes.
the New Hampshire red cedar that I would be getting, the mature height is 20 to 40 feet tall,
Okay.
with a circumference of 18 feet around.
Okay.
I think you mean 18 inches, right?
No, 18 feet.
The crown average is gonna be 18 feet. No, the crown is gonna be 18 feet around it, right?
Okay.
So do we have any idea, do you have any idea how large those trees are when they're shipped, when you receive them? I'm assuming they're small.
Yes, they're 2 feet tall.
Okay, so they're little guys.
And I'm getting you the information now on the growth, which I can actually testify to, as when I bought the property, I had some of those trees on the property, I still have them, that you saw them there. Specifically, behind where those containers were that have the solar equipment in it, those two hemlocks that you saw side by side with each other there, I actually saved those trees. They were just small saplings about this big when we moved in March 20th of 2019, I'm doing good. March 20th of 2019. So it's just a little over 5 years, and they've grown 17 feet in height.
So 3 feet a year.
And that was a
3
sick
years
tree,
ago.
that was not a tree that was taken care of, that was a sick tree that it took me a couple of years to get it, pruning it and feeding it and
Right.
all that stuff.
So we're gonna have some years where we don't have the coverage, but you also, against the road, there's a lot of vegetation there now on
Yes.
beech trees there, so that's fairly dense. So it's not as dense in the winter, but certainly when they're leafed out.
You have 3 seasons where it won't be, then if there are 3, it'll be dense with the evergreen and cedar.
So we're gonna assume that the cedar trees would exceed the height of 12 foot within 5 years?
Yes, they better. You got some problems.
And so the hemlock, the mature height is 80 feet.
Yes.
Okay.
They're- I know there's 14 acres of that, remember, they're 80 feet. I believe.
Yeah. And it also says with a lower circumference of 18 feet around.
Mhm.
And the seedling height that they send is 16 inches seedling. And it's known as a fast growing, excellent winter cover for deer and wildlife. Very fast growing, grows well on all soils, including wet soils, tolerant of cool, moist forests, extremely shaded areas,
Anyway,
so. And they do actually, they grow, if you take care of them, so like I've been taking care of those trees, they grow fast. They recover very quickly.
Okay, so the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because the proposed cedar trees to be planted would exceed the 12-foot height of the solar array within 5 years, and the expected circumference of 18 feet would block the view. Is that acceptable to everybody?
And I think it's also, to me, it's, ideally you'd like a larger tree going in, but I think the fact that there's that much vegetation there already kind of mitigates that issue.
And just to make clear, in 5 years, I don't think they're gonna be 18 feet around. It might be a little longer for the 18 feet around. They'll be pretty bushy, but they won't be quite 18 feet. Not until they're mature.
And I would add on, existing vegetation does provide some shielding.
Is that going to be a formal motion?
Yes, and I'll put forward that the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because the proposed cedar trees to be planted would exceed the 12-foot height of the solar array within 5 years, and the expected circumference of 18 feet would block the view. Existing vegetation does provide some shielding at this time.
Motion.
Motion to approve that?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any opposed? Okay, that was good. For the following reasons, the values of the surrounding properties will not be diminished. Not visible to surrounding properties.
Yeah. And we don't appear to have gotten any concern from the abutters.
Okay. No opposition. Butters. So, the following reasons, the values of the surrounding property will not be diminished due to not being visible to surrounding properties and no opposition from the abutters.
Motion to approve number 4.
Anybody second motion for?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, that will pass. Okay, unnecessary hardship. So there's not a fair and substantial relationship between the general purpose, public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because there's no way to site the array on the property to meet all the setbacks required of the ordinance.
Yeah, it says here in the guide, that we need to determine the purpose of the zoning restriction in question, and the applicant must establish that because of the special conditions of the property, the restriction as applied to the property does not serve that purpose in a fair and substantial way. So that's related to A.
So it would seem to me that the purpose of the ordinance is to prevent, mostly from a visual perspective, to some degree a safety perspective if it's higher up, but a visual perspective, just to prevent, seeing it, changing the nature of the property. And I think with what's being done to kind of hide it from the road and the neighbors, I don't see that that's creating a problem, and there doesn't seem to be any other solution or place to put it that would resolve that issue or would not make it worse in some cases.
Hard time figuring out how to answer it. Other than the fact that there's not a suitable location on the property.
And it's really, if we're looking at A below, it's saying, the different, it's basically, it's an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if it only yet owing to the special conditions of the property. Basically, you can't.
Include the
Yeah.
owner from doing
Yeah.
any including.
This is probably the best solution for them.
It is a reasonable one because allows.
But anyway, there's really no other place to put it, and they've mitigated the impact in surrounding properties.
And the existing conditions.
Yeah. Can't move the house. Put in solar array.
So I'm saying the proposed use is a reasonable one because it allows the owner to install a system meeting or mitigating the intent of the ordinance. So they met the majority of the ordinance, if they're mitigating the parts that they don't.
If they're unable to meet based upon the restrictions on the property.
Motion to accept number 5.
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? None. Okay, and last part, the criteria in subparagraph A having not been established, unless, that's not applicable because we have established a
Right.
hardship.
No, no.
Okay. I say we approve the variance with the stipulations that we've identified.
Yep, all 5 criteria. Motion to final approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So that closes the hearing for the variance. I'll have the paperwork drawn up in the next few days and out to you.
Yeah, whatever you need, that's fine, just let me know, and we'll, as soon as you guys say we're good to go ahead, and we'll start doing what we need to do. Okay, yeah, just let me know. And
Does that mean that Jeff can therefore approve a permit then?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Jeff can now approve the permit?
Yes.
Yeah, permit we got, that's fine, awesome. So then I'll let you know, and I'll just give you a heads up when we start anyway, just so you guys are aware.
Yep.
When we start doing
Variance has
it.
been granted.
Yep, not a problem, I appreciate everything, and thank you guys. And thank you very much.
very much.
Hey, moving on to the
Sure.
rest of the meeting. Okay. Any new business?
Not a problem, and I'll give you a heads up anyway when we go to start everything, I'll let you know anyway, just so you guys are aware, and I can do that, and do that all with you guys, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for what you guys
I
do.
appreciate it.
Because I know you don't.
Thank you very much for taking the time. I know it's a page, thank you. So I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it, thank you for taking the time. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Any other business?
Not that I'm aware of.
The only thing, Doug, and I'm going back on history, we had to conduct another meeting of the zoning board to accept the results of the public hearing formally. But I think before we adjourn this meeting, I think we should do that same thing. As a zoning board, to close out the zoning board meeting of the public hearing, accept the results of the public hearing.
Okay. So new business would be a vote on accepting the outcome of the hearing on the ordinance, on the variance.
Yep, and it'd be by motion.
Motion to accept the outcome of the variance decision?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion's approved. So we've accepted the outcome of the variance. No other business. I move to adjourn.
I second that one. I first that motion. I make that motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
8:07.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks.
Nice job.
Thank you.